The KZ Duonic. Let's talk about it. Now this is a new release. This is kind of one of the 11/11 releases of KZ. A lot of brands are coming out with IEMs right around this time, and it's something I'll probably talk about in my 11/11 video here in a week or so. But this is coming up with a new driver that's been teased a lot. It's called a Flux 3 driver, and this IEM is sent out to me directly from KZ. It costs around $22 to $30 depending on where you're at, and it has a unique driver that's it's a 8mm planar with a 8mm super linear dynamic driver for bass. So it's kind of like a hybrid style new driver. Beyond driver tech, let's start looking at the build quality. The shell is done well. If you've experienced other of KZ's shells in the past, this one's fine. I want to say it's a little bit smaller as it doesn't have a ton of like drivers in it, and it's a comfortable shell for me. I didn't have any problems with it. It isolates pretty well. One of the only problems it might have is it does have a unique connector, so I would recommend using the KZ cable. I did use a different KZ cable on this, the premium cable, and I find that to be enjoyable. I think it's a nice upgrade for comfort, but maybe not for sound. The stock cable is a fine cable. It functions. It has a mic on it, the mute button on it, functioning chin slider, all that. Terminates in a 3.3 with a little mic bracket on it. It does come with an instruction card that does you a little bit of how the dip switch settings work. We'll talk a little bit more about those in the graph setting. This is to change the dip switch settings. This is the tips it has, kind of not too exciting. And this is the cable that I used on it. It's a little bit thicker and chunkier. It's just a little bit more comfortable and I like it. How does this IEM sound? I think this is an interesting IEM. I think KZ is an interesting company because they are a little bit of a maverick and they kind of do their own thing. They're a little bit of an innovator in this space, and I liked a lot of the things they do, and I think sometimes they have some interesting IEMs that I don't like, but I always feel that there's effort making either something different and unique for other people, or at least trying to make something great. And I think in this category, they're really making something really quite great. I think it's a really interesting IEM, and I really like the sonic qualities of this IEM. It has punchy, rich bass. It really has this dynamic fun factor to it. It's tuned really well. It has tuning switches. But beyond that, it just feels like it has a good new kind of feature to it. There's something about this driver. There's something about this IEM that I think is kind of special, kind of unique. Is it perfect? No, nothing's perfect. But I do think it is a good budget set. Let's look at some graphs, and in the summary, we'll talk a little bit more about the driver. All right, this is the Duonic. What can I say about this? This has a lot of different graph settings to it. We'll look at those in a moment. This is the 1-1 setting, which is kind of the one that I personally sort of liked, as I found it a little bit V-shaped, a little bit fun, has a nice amount of upper mids. Nice. I mean, it basically fits my target really quite nicely. If I want to normalize this at 500, we can see it's maybe a little bit above, but again, not bad. It's a budget set. It has some minor quirks to it. It's really quite bassy, and it's a fun dynamic set that I think a lot of people are going to like, and I think it really attacks that budget space in a strong manner. As we look at this graph with all the different settings, I think one of the problems that I found, and note it does change this lower mid setting, like this red line does change things up just a slight bit, but I did think it did that pretty well. Like, I think it changes the settings a bit, but for the most part, after about 1K, it seems like they all kind of stay the same. Just something to note. I didn't graph every single setting on this, but I did graph enough settings that I think we get a pretty good example and sample size of how many are on there. I also, when I graphed this, I only graphed one side of the IEM, which it's hard enough getting one IEM to match, let alone when you're doing multiple settings of different dip switches. So, but at least it gives us the data of where it looks like and kind of how it behaves on my rig. And for people who like dip switch settings, I personally don't. I usually find the setting that I like and just kind of leave it to it. Again, I liked the 111 setting, and I felt that was pretty balanced all around. But you might like a different setting, like the green setting had by far the most bass. If we remove that real quick, I'll kind of show it to you. Like the 111 has a little bit more bass. And so it really kind of depends on what you want. Again, I like the one with a slightly less bass, but that was just kind of my personal taste. As we look at other IMs and what does this compare to? I think one that this is going to be compared to a lot is going to be like the KZ EDC Pro, which kind of, I want to say came out last year. It was kind of the darling of the space. I mean, what does this do? Just a slightly different tuning. The big thing you'll notice, though, is that the upper air frequencies have been kind of elevated. Now, that's not going to be for everybody. That's something that I personally find myself gravitating towards and liking. That doesn't mean that's going to be perfect for everyone. It's a nice feature. We'll look at some other graphs in a few. But to me, this is better than the EDC Pro. I do feel that they've done some nice work with their drivers. For me, like, the KZ EDC Pro felt a little bit scratchy, where this IM doesn't feel scratchy. It feels like a little bit more vibrant, feels alive. And maybe it has some faults, like the Duonic being a little bit too incisive, and like its treble is a little bit too, I don't know, like it's a little bit quirky. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to do a music section at the end of these graphs, and we'll talk about that. But it's good, but it has quirks, is what I'm trying to say. As far as like other IMs, I wanted to compare like a graph standpoint to, like this upper mids kind of region reminds me quite a bit of the Monarch MK4. I kind of wanted to point that out. I think that's a really well done upper mids. As far as like other IMs in this space, like one IM I kind of like is the Tantium Bunny. The Bunny does a good job at being kind of warm, has just kind of enough bass. The Duonic has a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more exciting. I think the Bunny, it's still a nice set. It still kind of gets my vote, but at the same time, it doesn't isolate well. The Duonic, it has a lot of advantages, especially if you're going to upgrade and use a different cable. Especially if you value having different settings. I think the Duonic is really, really nice, and these two trade belows. Personally, I think the Duonic's a little bit more fun. But the Bunny still has a lot of great qualities to it, and its treble is a little bit tamer and not as exciting or exaggerated like the Duonic can come across as. As far as other sets goes, like another set that I really like is the Ultra. The Ultra does a good job. Again, the Ultra has a really nice kind of linear bass shelf. It's a really nice IM. It's a really fun IM. I think the problem with the Duonic or the Ultra is just that like the Ultra has that scratchy treble, and I don't really think the Duonic has that. I think it has a little bit more of this incisive quality. Again, its treble is interesting, and I kind of spoke about it in the Bunny that it was bad, but it's not. It's like overly incisive and kind of fun and visceral, to say the least. And it's a different kind of IM. Like if I picked it up and someone was like, all right, this is a KZ, how much is this? I probably would have guessed that this IM cost $100 to $125 rather than its price of, of like what, 22. So I think it's really kicks above its price and is a fantastic IM. All right, ND Planet versus KZ Duonic. I mean, the ND Planet is a nice IM. It sounds pretty decent for what it is, but it doesn't have the extension. It doesn't have that upper detail. It just has a nice tonality. The Duonic is on a different note. It's really quite lovely. I don't know what they're doing with the planar driver they have with it, but it sounds dynamic, punchy, and that it really attacks. And it's something kind of special. I really liked it. I like what's going on here with it. It's a lot of fun. As far as other IMs out there, there is something like the Polaris. The Polaris doesn't have the extenuated treble. Doesn't have like a whole lot of detail from 4 to 6K. You might like the scoop. I kind of like IEMs that have a scoop sometimes, but also there's something to be said about an IEM that has a little bit more even kiltered detail. And I think it adds a little bit more like detail and finer grain technicality to your music, which I think is a nice feature to have. All right, the last one I want to compare it to is the KZ Cadenza. And I think the KZ Cadenza is like one of those sets that has a little bit less sub bass, has a little bit more of a kind of a nice peak to the treble. It's an interesting, nice set. And I just got the Kiwi Ears Bell. I'm going to go and show that to you guys here. I don't have a lot of time on it. But the Kiwi Ears Bell also came in recently when it's pretty neat. And I'll be doing a review of that soon. It's, like I said, this is a hard time for people that are watching this video during the November season, which most of my views get watched. And like 80% of my views are usually within the first 2 weeks for a video. And so you can kind of see what that looks like versus the Bell. The Bell looks a lot like the Cadenza, you know, in a lot of ways with a little bit more sub bass. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to look at. I just want to show you that comparison. Again, it's early. I will say that I like the Duonic more than I do the Cadenza. I think the Cadenza is a nice set, but I think the Duonic has this upper treble extension and is. All right, I want to do a brief kind of talk about kind of how this sounds with music. And this song, it's Three Tough Guys. It has a wide open stage. There's like a metallic-y timbre. There's like sharper guitar hits, but it's enjoyable. It's incisive. It's fun. There's a slight sense of unnaturalness to it, but it has a strong, fun, dynamic feel to the sound and to everything. This other song, it's Seagulls, Lemon and Soul. It has like lush water sounds. They feel really real and natural. It sounds like glass. It sounds lovely. There's a sharp, realistic, and it's just a really nice, well done. This song, La Dispute, which I've just kind of discovered and I really enjoy, but it has a lot of cymbal crashes in the beginning, and they do come across a little bit sizzly, but the tonality is snappy. It feels quick. It feels like the bass attack and the technicality elements of this IEM are really. All right, KZ Duonic, let's rank it up. I do feel this IEM suffers from a little bit of sizzly treble. Sometimes the mids feel a little bit unfocused and it doesn't feel as natural as I want it to. But there's a dynamism and the it factor from this IEM that I really enjoy. I think it's one of the better or one of the best IEMs at this price point. To me, it gets an easy recommendation, and I probably would give it like a 5-star review, but I feel like the packaging and the ear tips could be a little bit better. So, I mean, by the time you buy some more packaging, you know, buy a new cable, buy some extra tips. I still think the Duonic is an incredible value, but at the $22, I think, you know, I'd almost rather pay $35 and get just a few more features. But as far as like sonic qualities go, it's awesome. It competes with, I think, some of the best of any IEM under 100, and you might like it better than IEMs that are priced so much more. I think it's super impressive. You know, KZ's a funny company. They're innovating. They're always trying new things, and I feel like they do a lot of great things in this space. They're really trying things out, and I feel like their tuners and the mass production amount of IEMs that they do really leads me to believe I don't know, it's a special company. I think in the budget space, you know, everybody's trying to compete. Everybody's trying to put out the best set. Is this the best set? Maybe. I mean, there's still a lot of tuning philosophies. I mean, some people won't even touch IEMs that have tuning switches in them, and some people won't touch KZ. If you ignore all that, if you're just looking at the sound, like the 111 profile that I really like, I think this is really hyper competitive, hyper impressive. I think there's something to this driver. I'd like to hear some more reviews of this. And I really like this set. To me, you'll notice I have this box kind of up here by my plant labeled KZ Duonic. This is what I store my IEMs in that I use for testing, that I don't just throw in my garage or throw in my other room that I don't really have room for in and around my desk. To me, this IEM is benchmark worthy. It's really fun. It's really unique. And if you guys are interested in it, I would highly encourage you guys to check it out. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Have a great day. Bye-bye for now.
Go!
Go!
Go on with you!